The views and opinions expressed by the guests of Sasquatch Experience do not necessarily reflect the opinion of the hosts, sponsors, or affiliates of the Sasquatch Experience. As always, listener discretion is advised.
911, what are you reporting?
We got someone or something crawling around out here.
Does a legend walk among us, lurking in the forests of our world?
Did you see what it was? Was it a person or an animal or?
I can't tell. All I know is that my sensor light came on and I just happened to glimpse and see this thing running across the yard. A good-sized man or something. It looks like a man. I don't know what it was.
For over 15 years, we've talked with scientists, researchers, investigators, and witnesses, trying to gain insight and proof around the existence of this mysterious entity.
Jesus Christ, you better...
Sir?
Zia!
Hello?
Get somebody out here.
What's going on now, sir?
That son of a bitch is about 6'9", I don't know.
Do you see him now, sir?
Yes, I'm looking right at him.
Uh-oh. Okay, hang on.
He's right...
Is he in your yard, sir?
Yeah, God, he's big.
Okay, what's he doing in your yard?
He's looking at me.
Join us as we continue into the investigation of the Sasquatch Experience. And good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Sasquatch Experience for Monday, July the 30th, 2023. I'm Sean the Fork Chop Forker, joined by Henry May, live and in color purple. Matt Arner, Vance Nesbitt, James Baker, our executive producer down at the bottom, Mr. Brian Corbin, and of course our special guest tonight, Mr. Doug Hajiecks. We all know him if you're watching this show for a reason. The brains behind MonsterQuest, an award-winning film producer, documentarian, and an all-around pretty cool guy. You can check him out on Untold FM. He's got all kinds of podcasts going on. He's busier than I am, and he's got better hair. So, gentlemen, welcome to the show tonight. Henry, we'd be remiss, though, if we didn't start this off with a little Peter Byrne discussion, right? Yes. Tragedy befell the Bigfoot Field Friday. Peter Byrne passed away at almost 98 years old, one of the four horsemen, the original kind of pioneers in this research, and it's just a kind of a dark day for Sasquology.
Yes, it is. He was the last of the four horsemen.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate, but you know, he left a good legacy. And I was fortunate enough, of course, to meet him in 2016 at Beachfoot. So, and get 3 of his books signed. So, and he and I we sat at the campfire. I think it was Saturday morning at Beachfoot. We were just talking not about Sasquatch, but just about life, you know, just about our lives and what we do and what we're involved with and everything. So that was just a nice little conversation.
Yeah, I mean, it's those moments that you remember. God, I just remember as a kid, you know, one of the mainstays on the documentaries, Ancient Mysteries, In Search of Unsolved Mysteries, right? Just one of the gentlemen that captivated my imagination and really brought me into this. And it's just sad. And, you know, unfortunately, it's one of those things that happen as we age. You know, we know there's an end date, but he left a mark on the field and just contributions like no other. And it's just sad. And our condolences to all his friends and family. Just a sad day. Mm-hmm. But,
and, you know, he was able to raise, from what they sell at Sasquatch Odyssey, $3 million of other people's money to have things like helicopters and ground sensors and even a 100 Bigfoot hotline.
Right.
Well, I think the telling part about that is if you're somebody that, depends on money to do this research or these projects, that's quite an accomplishment. I'd be proud of that too, being able to get $3 to $4 million of somebody else's money to do this work. Doug, you're a film producer and that's a remarkable feat to raise that much money, especially for something like Bigfoot.
Yeah. Oh God. I grew up watching Peter.
Yeah.
He was certainly had an impact on me. He was the guy that I sent my VHS copy of the footprints that we photographed up in the Arctic. And I sent that VHS to Peter, and I told Todd, who knew Peter really well, Todd Neese, I said, Todd, if you ever can find that tape, it's probably still at Peter's. Because I have no copy of it. I have no copy.
Be nice to get that back.
Oh, it'd be awesome. I get asked about that constantly.
Sad day, Doug. It really is. And for people that knew him, like Todd Neese, of course, a good friend of ours, and someone that you're familiar with. Almost devastating loss for Todd.
Yeah, he was close to Todd.
Yeah. So again, folks, our condolences out to him. But we can't fester on the sad. We got to move on with some of the happy, and that's why we got Doug on here tonight, because we're going to talk about some great things. Vance, Matt, I don't want to overstep and steal the show or take anything from you. Do you have anything before we get started? Any news or memories?
Well, we'll get to the news at the bottom of the hour with a little bit of more of Peter Byrne, but
sure.
Yeah, we'll kind of envelop all of this cryptozoology thing with Doug himself, and I just want him to unleash onto us, especially what you just released, Doug. Personally, what you got from your cameras that you had set up. Oh yeah.
So Adam Colt, who I'm working with and known obviously for years, Adam is he's like me in a lot of ways. He likes to take different types of technology and combine them like a mad scientist. And he'll call me with an idea and he'll say, we can do this, we connect this to this and this to this, and I can solder up these cords and these cables, and then we can broadcast live from the forest up to, 25, 30 cameras, whatever. And I'm like, okay, that sounds good. I'm thinking more in my mind, it would be really cool to do 5. Adam's thinking 25, 27. Wow. So anyhow, all of a sudden he's like, okay, I'm ready to go. And I'm like, what? It was kind of a little bit of a surprise. And his plan was to go up for 30 days, all by his lonesome, solo camp, and do nothing but work on tech all day and putting cameras up. And so we've been working every night, trying to come up with a new game plan every night, because there's things we can do with these cameras that have historically has never been able to be done. So literally he set it up so on my phone, I could monitor multi-cameras live all through the night, which of course I've not slept now. I'm going on day 10 without sleep. Where I'll sleep a little bit in the morning, but I got to get up. I can't. So I was a little woozy today, but so I can watch up to 4 cameras at a time in banks of 4. And then we've got, in those cameras, we have no IR lights. Everybody for years has been saying these things can see IR light. And right. I've not argued about that. It's a very good theory, because why else are they avoiding camera traps over the last 25, 30 years? There's got to be a reason. Although camera traps normally are not broadcasting anything because it's a passive sensor. So that still didn't really make a lot of sense. So I'm still kind of on the fence on that. But maybe they can hear a hum, or there's electronics. Or maybe they're savants and they just know their damn forest so well. Photographic memory. And they can spot something out of place, just like I would in my own living room. I would instantly notice if there was something wrong. And I see Jim maybe agreeing with me.
Yeah, right there. That's the conversation we've been continually having. It's
Yeah.
not as much about the cameras. I think it's the fact that you touch the forest, and then they're interested in what's going on, but they're smart enough not to get in front of the camera.
But here's why
Yeah.
we're doing what we're doing. So we have this huge camp, right? So we have a huge footprint in the middle of the forest. And so Adam, it's taken a long time to set this camp up. It's a 30-day venture. We have a teepee he set up. It's a 300 square foot office for all these electronics and computers. And we've got, restrooms and showers and clotheslines and, there's just ATV and there's all sorts of stuff. So our goal at first, and we're not sure we're going to stick to this plan, but it's to watch the camp and the surrounding part of the camp. So that way we can disguise the cameras, which are very man-made, into things like a box of dried oatmeal, a six-pack of beer sitting on the picnic table. So we have cameras hidden in a little more sneaky ways. And then some are just kind of distraction cameras. So here, avoid these. But here's what we're doing right now. No IR lights at all. Cameras, many of them are off, completely off. So they're not giving out buzz. They're not giving out electricity. But I have a secret button. If Adam hears a noise, or if I do, because I have some cameras on in camp, and I'm listening all night, I can then turn on a big bank of lights, IR lights. I can not turn on IR lights. I could just hit record on ones that are not using IR light. I could do kind of whatever I want. And I practice so I can be quick. Well, last night was one of the first real alarms that Adam didn't hear, but I did. It looked like something lifted up a camera, like maybe 4 or 5 inches, tilted it and set it back down. And I heard like tapping and all sorts of noise on the camera. Clearly it really moved a lot. And I thought, oh God. So I got all my heart's pumping, my heart's racing. What do you think I did? I forgot to turn on any record buttons on the cameras. So I completely failed like an idiot. I've been thinking about that all day. Because the first thing through my mind was, well, maybe Adam got up, snuck up, and maybe he was adjusting a camera that bugged him. And I wasn't aware he was up. So I failed, but I should have done it. But then later on, we went back, we reviewed other cards because we had some that were in continuous record mode farther away. And it looked like a battery just tipped over inside a box of oatmeal where we had the camera, hidden. And then the cord stretched and it kind of yanked the box and it went up. And so the complete, false alarm. So I didn't screw up in the end, but I'm kind of glad he found that because I felt like an idiot.
Right.
But this is really, this many cameras filming in a camp or in the woods or on the edge of the woods is quite historic. I've done it before with 1 or 2 cameras, it was a huge team of people to pull it off. We're talking solar panels, control panels, this big, put together by computer experts, cellular plan, to be able to beam the information up. And we could only stream 1 camera a little bit on a jerky end. Well, here we're running far more. And Adam figured out all these things that we can do with, switching and, shutting lights off independently. So it's really flexible. So we're experimenting. And we're on day 13, I guess, today, or day 14. So we still have 16 days.
Yeah, it's still in its infancy.
Yeah, and I just found a volunteer who said he'd be willing to stay past Adam because Adam has to leave. Me and Adam are going together on another expedition. So he has to leave. So maybe somebody else can take over this camp, which is actually quite luxurious. It's got an electric shower, there's air mattresses, it's not too shabby. It's pretty nice.
Yeah. Maybe I'll even go.
I'm volunteering right
Okay.
here. Give me a
Get
ticket.
your ticket. I gotta get your ticket. Okay, all right.
Hey.
But I think I posted a picture, just a still picture of like one of the banks of cameras that I'm monitoring, and I would imagine everybody was kind of like, "Oh, they got IR lights on." No, that's no IR lights on at all. Just moonlight and very very low light cameras, which I think is going to be key to getting footage of a Bigfoot. Cameras are getting lower and lower and lower light. You can buy cameras now that have shutter speeds of as low as 530 ISO, which means they'll see without any IR projection lights in total darkness, which is amazing. That stuff's all coming. That stuff's all going to be in our pockets soon. You know, I mean, it's going to be a game changer.
Well, I hope it is. You know, again, we go back over a few of our past shows, Doug, where I've had the conversation with Sean, and it seems like old technology was what was capturing images, whereas new technology may discourage any of the capture. Not to say that VHS tape, cameras of, the 80s and early 90s weren't capturing things too, but they were handheld devices and they see something and okay, they turn the camera on. But as far as something that is permanently mounted or temporarily mounted to capture something, I'm wondering if older technology was more successful. So what you're saying is a lot more encouraging to kind of eliminate at least some of the infrared spectrum of it, because those photos that you posted, I would not have been able to tell that was not infrared. That was just natural light. Yep. And that's pretty incredible.
Yeah. And plus, many of our cameras are off. They're just off. But I can push a button, turn them all on, all at once, simultaneously. Within 2 seconds, I can be filming from 20 cameras.
Doug, I have a question.
Go ahead.
I just have a quick question. The area that you're researching, does it have cell phone coverage?
Yes. That was the key. Abe Del Rio from the Minnesota Bigfoot research team. Yep. He's the one that suggested this. It's one of their research areas. I see Abe's in the chat room. Hey, Abe, how you doing? So we couldn't even have done this really without Abe, because places like this are rare. Where you've got vast forests and you're out in the middle of the forest and you've got a decent cell phone signal strong enough to run many, many cameras all at once.
Yep.
And we're talking high def too. It's high definition.
That's great. I know with us, a lot of the problems that we have here in Pennsylvania is because of the mountains, and especially in the Alleghenies. Once you hit a certain ridge, there is no cell coverage whatsoever. So being able to kind of see what we can do without that cell coverage, or if there's anything, do you have any suggestions for that?
Well, the only option right now is satellite, but until when Starlink comes on board and that becomes just an everyday thing for everybody. I mean, I think everybody's going to switch to Starlink at some point. That's going to be a big game changer, because now everybody's going to have access. These surveillance cameras aren't that expensive. The technology is going to get better and better and better. I would say in the next 3 years, here's what I'll make some predictions. Desktop DNA machines.
Yep.
Literally, remember when printers were $5,000? I remember I had to purchase those things.
Yeah.
Now they're what, $25? There's the same thing is happening with DNA technology. It's getting smaller to these little desktop units. How long will it be? I think a few years before you'll be able to buy them on Amazon and do your own DNA testing.
Well, look at the footprint scanning you can do with your cell phone.
LiDAR, radar. We're all carrying around a LiDAR in our pockets from these damn cell phones. And I do want to mention that, actually. It's a very, very interesting story. A lot of people haven't thought about with the tool you have in your pocket. Okay. That thing is flashing a LiDAR bunch of, I don't know what it is, like 40,000 lasers every few seconds at your face, at your home, at your walls, at your wife, your kids. It's completely by now mapped your entire house and every square inch of every body in your home, including, every nook and cranny, what's in your closet, your bathroom. But this information can all be put together by a foreign government. I want you to picture a map of everybody's interior home, every square inch of the U.S., mapped in LiDAR in 3D. That's probably already happened. So, one of the reasons we were talking about it last night, because one of our game plans is for Adam to hear something, which we've had many nights where we've had the tent slapped really hard twice. There's been a rock came sailing into camp. His wife came up to join him for a couple of days. She heard some mimicking going on outside, on and on and on. So I said, Adam, you have to communicate to me, because I can then switch all the cameras from off to on. And so the problem was to get him in an area where that LiDAR was not penetrating. It goes right through sleeping bags, guys.
Right.
It's scary. So you're getting hit in the face by 43,000 laser beams every few seconds. And this was penetrating through layers of sleeping bags. We actually had to wrap tape around his camera, go under numerous sleeping bags before I could not detect the flash off that damn
Isn't that
phone.
crazy?
And it is nuts. And it
really is.
It angers me, because facial recognition when you're opening your phone, that's one thing.
Right.
But to take your photo every 5 seconds, that's a whole nother thing.
Yeah.
What is that for? That's what I'd like to know.
Yeah, that's a topic that more people should be aware about.
I'm bringing it up because it really irks me. The fact we couldn't even feel the damn things with layers of thick sleeping bags. That's how low light our cameras are. They were detecting this flash, and we're like, well, if there's a Bigfoot out there and it's seeing flashing, it's going to know Adam's up. And we need to make sure Adam's sleeping while he's telling me, Doug, turn the cameras on now.
Right.
And I think this is probably one of the best game plans anybody's ever had, because we do have this thing coming into camp. But it's beat us every night for one reason or another. Although last night was a complete false alarm. And every night could have been a false alarm. But it's still, it's hard to figure out what would have slapped his tent. And one of the slaps broke a carbon fiber tent pole.
Yeah. Right.
There's some force there.
Yeah. Yeah. What does that? So, it's kind of it's anecdotal, but we do trust Abe that this is a good area, and there's been numerous sightings. There were sightings there as early as July 8th, as late as July 8th.
As Vance had talked about, we had theorized for a while and postulated conversation wise that there was something about the older technology that worked. The Sierra sounds were done on analog; they weren't done on digital. Why? Yeah. There had to be something about it, Doug, that was the catalyst for that. And
it could be, why can't people buy you can still buy old reel-to-reel Panasonic with the capstan drive, the old little capstan drive that you'd put on there to slow down footage or speed it up. And also film cameras with real film, movie cameras. You can buy them for a song. You can get 16 millimeter movie camera. You can still buy footage or the raw film at Walmart. They'll still develop it. And it's an instant on thing that's spring wound.
Yeah.
Buy a spring wound camera. No electronics. Test your theories. Don't just talk about them. Test them.
The problem is dancing around your house while waiting for that film to get developed.
Oh yeah, that's also expensive.
It's like it's all about that anticipation of I want to see what I captured.
Well, you can imagine what Roger and Bob felt like when that stuff was going in the soup, and the chemical soup,
right?
Because man, the guy that's dipping that film in the soup could ruin it.
Yeah.
just by, just not doing his job.
All right.
So I could have been ruined. We're lucky it came out as good as it did. The original Legend Meet Science film, I shot that in 35 millimeter.
Oh, wow.
And I had to do, we go, and shoot a bunch of stuff, very complex. And then I couldn't look at it. I had to, send it to the guy, and he put it in the soup, and you're just praying everything's okay. And the X-ray machines at the airport didn't ruin it, and blah, 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 blah. And I'll tell you, those were tense moments.
My wife and I were the last of our class to do darkroom developing, and with chemicals, and then they translated everything to image setters, so the digital image, so they weren't needed. The darkroom wasn't needed anymore. But that's a process, and things can go wrong. Like when I opened up a drawer with the light on, and ruined a whole drawer full of film. Things like that. Thank God I didn't develop the Patterson film. It would have been screwed. But Henry, you had a question. Go ahead, buddy.
Yes, Doug, I wanted to ask you, how in the world did you manage to film the giant squid? This was a species that had only been seen dead on our shores.
Yeah. Well, first off was inspiration. Knowing they're alive, but my theory was they were in the Sea of Cortez. I was scoffed at by experts, told me, no, there's no way they're there. There's no way they could be there. And literally right before expedition, one washed up on the shore in the Sea of Cortez. A dead Architeuthis. Wasn't real big. And that shut that expert up quick. But my goal was, like it is with Bigfoot, it's going to be a multi-step effort. It's not just going to be that strap a camera on a tree. So me and Adam are going to great lengths to strategize. We spend hours on the phone each day, strategizing, debating, arguing, whatever it takes to figure out what is the best method tonight to try a multi-step effort to get one of these things on film. So I knew, because I'm a fisherman, I thought, well, let's build a big lure, right? And the divers agreed that was good. And there were squid experts that were Humboldt squid experts. They've only dealt with Humboldts. They thought, well, okay, yeah, that's my work. So the idea was to build a big lure to catch a big enough squid to put a payload on that big squid to carry down, because I had a theory that the really big Architeuthis or a big overgrown Humboldt that may have also got out of its breeding niche and never bred and lived, beyond their normal 2-3 years and just kept growing would be to send something down to where they are, because they don't go up and down the water column. The smaller squid I knew would travel up and down the water column, bringing nutrients down to the bottom, coming up to the surface, feeding on whatever shrimp and so on, coming down. And then the big ones would just eat them, cannibals. So that was my theory. And I actually got that theory from lake trout. And from reading the In-Fisherman magazines and the In-Fisherman books when I was a kid, because Al Linder would talk about northern pike that got, massive size in Europe because they would get out of their niche. Maybe they wouldn't breed, and they would catch these giant northern pike. They would put them in moats to protect castles, and all this stuff captured my imagination, but it made sense. A fish that would get out of its damn niche. So I thought maybe the big giant Architeuthis is just a normal sized Architeuthis that you would pay no attention to, but that it would not breed and just stay in the cold, sterile waters of the ocean, deep in the darkness, and just feed on whatever comes downwards towards its mouth. It's not expelling the energy. It's not breeding. So I believe it was a female. And what's so funny is that may not ever be done again for another 50 damn years. Right. Just like the Patterson footage. Oh. I might have just been really lucky and had the perfect storm in the right place at the right time. And it mean, literally, there's been 4 networks have tried to do what we did and have failed. I tried to do what we did already once and failed. So maybe it just doesn't get done for 50 years, 70 years.
Right.
Who knows? Or maybe it gets done tomorrow. I have no idea.
Sometimes luck plays
luck.
into it. Lady Luck was on your side.
Yeah. So you can never downplay luck. Why does one person win $1 billion in the damn lottery?
Yeah,
Right? Why wasn't it Jim Baker? Because then Jim would say, "Hey guys, every researcher gets $200,000."
Oh, the world would change if I won $1 billion.
And folks, I'm going to let that thought fester as we go to the news. Sean Forker, James Baker, Henry May, Matt Honor, Vance Nesbitt, Brian Corbin, and our guest tonight, Doug Hajiecks. We'll be back right after this. Smoke them if you got them. Or don't do that. That's bad. Don't do that.
News team, assemble!
Yes, welcome to the Bigfoot Bullhorn exclusively on the Sasquatch Experience Anomalous Entertainment. Welcome to the very last Monday night in history, August 31st, 2023. And in honor of tonight's guest, we're going to go through a popular top 10 list in a survey taken by 2,000 people nationwide of top 10 favorite cryptids. Now, we're not speaking cryptids that are most real or most prominent. No, these are favorite cryptids. So without further ado, number 10 is the Mongolian death worm. Creepy, I give you that much. Kind of has this attitude for taking the name of the area in which it lives in. The Mongolian deathworm is said to be anywhere between 2 and 5 feet and surfaces when it wants to claim a victim by spraying venom, and some say it even has an electrical charge. Coming in at number 9, Thunderbirds. Seen all around the globe, but especially in North America, but not in Antarctica though, but Thunderbirds, yeah, I put that in one of my favorites. Number 8, Phantom cats. Not really one of my most favorite, but considering ever since the discovery of Siberian tigers that can live in extremely cold temperatures, I suppose a big cat could live just about anywhere it chooses. Number 7 is actually kind of a favorite of mine. Considered by some to be a modern dinosaur, the Mokele Mamembe is a water creature said to exist in the Congo River Basin in Central Africa. It is said to be a large reptilian creature with a body like an elephant and a long neck. Stories and sightings of Mokele Mamembe can be found as far back as 1776, and since the early 1900s, missionaries and explorers that visit the region have been told of a massive sauropod that dwells in the local rivers. Now, keep in mind, the Congo River Basin itself is 3.5 times larger than the state of Texas, and most of it is unexplored by foot, so there is that possibility. Moving on to number 6. Show of hands from everybody in the room here, if this is a favorite of yours or not. Yeah, it's the Mothman. We won't get too much into the whole Mothman deal because we're all aware between 1966 and 1967, the sighting of the Mothman by several witnesses in Point Pleasant, West Virginia. And yes, the Mothman Festival continues from here on out in Point Pleasant, West Virginia. Coming in at number 5. Hey, we're halfway through the list. Perhaps the only cryptid to be the mascot of a major sports franchise. And in this case, the New Jersey hockey team. Yeah, you guessed it, the Jersey Devil. It's one of the most well-known folk creatures, and its legend dates back to the 1700s. Number 4 in our top 10 favorite cryptids from a survey across the nation, also known as the Abominable Snowman, the Yeti is a large ape-like creature that is said to exist in the Himalayas of Nepal and Tibet. And how many novices believe that the Yeti is actually white hair colored? We don't know. Number 3, oh, I can see the excitement building in the room. Sean's like, come on, Bigfoot, be number 1, be number 1. Number 3, El Chupacabra is one of the most well-known cryptids in popular culture and has supposedly been spotted in the United States, Latin America, and even in Russia. Its name literally means goat sucker because of the supposed method of attacking and drinking the blood of goats and other livestock. Number 2, perhaps the most recognizable of all famous cryptids, the Sasquatch. It's a bipedal ape-like creature that is alleged to inhabit the forests of North America and around the world, also known as Bigfoot because of its especially large footprints. Sorry, Sean. Number 2 of the most favorite cryptid survey, which brings us to number 1. And if you haven't figured it out by now, well, I'm about to give it away. Probably the most well-known of all cryptids is, yeah, you guessed it, the Loch Ness Monster, a famed lake creature supposedly found in Scotland's Loch Ness. Its legend dates back to the 6th century, when an Irish monk called Saint Columba is said to have confronted a water beast after it killed a man by dragging him underwater. That wraps it up for our top 10 list of most favorite cryptids across the nation. And when we come back, a special statement from the Sasquatch Experience.
You're listening to the Sasquatch Experience.
Got knockers? No, I have knickers. Well, get your knockers at Got Knockers, a Bigfoot apparel line dedicated to the creature known to knock on trees in the dead of night. This exclusive design is world-renowned and can be discovered by you by visiting Etsy at Got Knockers. Etsy, E-T-S-Y, Got Knockers. Once you purchase a Got Knockers wear, well, feel free to join the group on Facebook, where a cast of thousands meet and chat with some of the biggest names in Sasquatchery. Again, that's Got Knockers on Etsy and Got Knockers on Facebook. And as was mentioned at the beginning of the show, this past week, our community has lost a legend, Peter Cyril Byrne. All of us at the Sasquatch Experience extend our thoughts of sympathy to friends and family of Peter. Accomplished author of 19 books, most famous ones being The Hunt for Bigfoot and The Search for Bigfoot, Monster, Myth, or Man. The last of the famous four horsemen, Grover Krantz, Renee DeHinden, John Green. Godspeed, Mr. Byrne. You will be missed. Thanks again for listening to this edition of the Bigfoot Bullhorn exclusively on the Sasquatch Experience. Till next time, keep your toes in the mud.
I don't know about keeping my toes in the mud, but I want to put my foot up your ass with that Nessie number 1. Really? You couldn't have lied and just changed the list?
I'm not the one that did the survey. This is
Yeah,
the survey that came back.
I know. You should have put an over-under on that and won some buckets. Welcome back to the Sasquatch Experience. Sean Porker, Henry May, Matt Arner, James Baker, Vance Nesbitt, Brian Corbin, and our guest tonight, Doug Hajiecks. And of course, you're all here for Doug, which is the great thing. But Vance, thank you for that marvelous news segment, as always. Even though it was post-dated in the future, that's okay. We'll let it slide this time for July 31st, not August 31st.
Yeah, July 31st. That's what I said. Yeah, right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We knew you mentioned. Anyhow, before we took our break and went to the future, we were talking about, Henry brought up a good point of, Doug and company filming a giant squid. Doug, when you're trying to put together a project like MonsterQuest or, how do you present something like that to someone to create a television show? Because nothing like that had really happened long form. There were kind of one-off episodes on other shows, but nothing full form like MonsterQuest.
Well, it's tough. I got a little bit lucky on MonsterQuest because I did Legend Meet. Okay, so I started out doing just wildlife research and doing outdoor shows. Then I got a job filming for a show called Wild About Animals with Mariette Hartley. Remember her from the Rockford Files.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, I did a Animal Planet documentary called The Man Who Walks with Bears. And that's where I did my first outdoor TV station to try to film a wild black bear give birth. And of course, the bear had absorbed her cubs. She wasn't heavy enough to actually give birth, so we failed. Did it again, finally succeeded on that. But it's so cool to see people like Adam, because I'm getting old. But Adam has taken things like he gets inspired by things. And now Adam Colt has gone, 10 times over what I ever did, but still using kind of that same inspiration of trying to do something that's never been done. Adam recognizes better than anybody that this is going to take a great effort to get footage. And once again, you're not strapping a camera on a tree and expecting to have a Bigfoot walk by and wave at the camera. And the same with the giant squid. It was many, many steps. I remember the boardroom meeting I was in with History Channel. I remember everybody rolling their eyes, explaining, well, first we're going to do this. I'm going to build this, and we're going to do this. Then we're going to catch a squid. Then we're going to put a camera on that squid and attach it with bolts and washers and cotter pins. And then we're going to release that thing down, and hopefully it swims straight down like it did, completely natural. And there it was. It seemed so simple, once it was done. Just like I'm sure Patterson felt like, oh my God, that was so easy. They got reports there were tracks in an area. They started exploring. They had a perfect storm. They had a big downfall of a bunch of roots. They had a creek that was running fast. They were on horseback to cover their scent and sound. Roger had practiced pulling that damn 16 millimeter camera out of the scabbard quick and pulling the trigger. He had the right kind of camera, was focused, and it just all came together. And so I felt kind of that way too. Not really deserving of anything. I had a great team of divers because they could have easily have failed getting a squid big enough to put a camera on. That could have happened so easy because that wasn't my first squid expedition. I went on one for Discovery Channel. And I remember sneaking on a big Mylar tail and a well camera had 1,000 foot of cable on it. And I snuck it in the luggage with all this other gear. Discovery paid for that stuff. And I remember when everybody was kind of doing their siesta, but the boat was going to another location, I was trolling for a big squid. And something grabbed my camera and tore the cable off.
Wow.
Literally ripped a 600-pound tensile strength cable right in half. And I went, oh, someday I'm coming back here with the right goods and the right team. And that's kind of what happened. Asked about Sean about how I got MonsterQuest or how that came about. I was interested in Bigfoot because I found tracks up in the Arctic. And Peter Byrne was the guy that I sent the film to. And he gave me a response on the film. He agreed there were footprints, and he said, yeah, there was a sighting up literally near that lake. It was Selwyn Lake up in Northwest Territories back in the 1800s. So I was like, oh, cool. And so I did get to talk to Peter on the phone a little bit, and he was nice enough to get back to me. Not nice enough to return my damn tape, though. So I hope I hope Todd can find it. Anyhow, so I got really interested in Bigfoot, got hold of Matt Moneymaker. Matt was kind enough to spend a ton of time with me, fill me in on, kind of the basic stuff. Man, these sightings happen where there's woods, water, and hills. And so that really, hearing all these facts kind of got me going, oh man, we need to do a show. So I did Legend Meet Science. Then I went on to do Mysterious Encounters for the Outdoor Life Network. I think that was the first really sciencey big. It was the first Bigfoot series. We even had the backpacks that they used in finding Bigfoot.
Yeah,
We had
Autumn
drones
Williams.
back in the early 2000, like 2001. We had drones. We had helium balloons with gimbals, thermal cameras. We had camera traps that were, I think, way better than the common camera traps now. A little more similar to what we had. We would bury the recording unit, a long ways away, and then we would take just a thin coaxial and bury that, and then just put the camera with infrared lights. And of course, we'd film a lot of wildlife, never Bigfoot. So then I started pitching Giganto. Couldn't sell it. Nobody was interested in it. And then one day I was watching TV and there was a movie trailer for King Kong that Peter, I can't think of Peter's last name. The producer. And I went,
right.
It's called
Peter Jackson, right?
Yeah, Peter Jackson. And I got really excited. I'm thinking, the real King Kong, Giganto, the real King Kong. And I, of course, had this write-up. Stacy Keach was nice enough to voice this demo for King Kong. I pitched it to NBC through my agent, and they said, no, we'll take it. And then it got signed off by everybody at NBC. It was going to be a primetime special on NBC. Finally, it got vetoed by, I believe, the president of NBC. He said, just take it to History Channel. So they took it to History Channel. They said, yeah, we'd love to do it. So I did it. And literally it was like the next morning when the overnight ratings came in, they were blown away by the high ratings. I guess it was like their highest rated show ever. And they said, Doug, can you do more of these? And of course I answered, yeah, of course.
Yeah. Right.
Send the contract over. And so they did. We ended up signing a contract, literally negotiating and everything. I think within 24 hours, it was all done. And I started doing MonsterQuest. And from day one, it was a big hit. And, it was shattered all the ratings of everything. And you can see they're kind of into the paranormal shows to this day.
Right.
And I keep going, hey, how come you don't want more MonsterQuest? Oh, Doug, it's so good. We don't need any more. And so it's
I don't know.
all over Europe, and it's still bringing in, residuals, and it's still doing good. So,
Doug,
go ahead, Sean.
Henry and I started Sasquatch Experience in 2006.
Okay.
So we've been podcasting about this a very long time, but I to a credit to you for helping to keep the fervor going with the public so that they care about it more than just kind of a pop culture-y kind of sideshow to something tangible and real. And I went with MonsterQuest.
Yeah.
Researcher today, Matt Knapp, on the phone. And Matt and I were talking how, MonsterQuest, you didn't have just the talking heads of the Peter Burns and the John Greens and everybody anymore, the Lauren Colemans. You had real researchers on the ground in these areas, and you connected people with them. So I think some of this renaissance is due to you and MonsterQuest for kind of creating that excitement and bringing legitimacy back to people can see what we're doing now.
Right.
And I
appreciate that. I appreciate that, Sean. I always try to tell people the reason MonsterQuest was different because I was not a producer first. I was a wildlife researcher who had Bigfoot experience. I wanted answers. I wasn't just trying to make money thinking, oh, this is a great fad. Let's jump on board making, monster films. I wanted damn answers because I wanted answers to what I had seen. So that made it passionate. So I didn't just I didn't take the easy route. I could have taken a much easier route with every episode. I put a lot of work and passion into planning and technology and tried to get answers. We may have failed many times, which we did, but we did accomplish a few things. But I think the biggest accomplishment was just to raise the topic a bit.
Right.
And I'm proud of that. I'm hoping Legend Meet Science 2 that we're working very hard at. We're doing the field efforts first. We still have some very stunning field efforts coming. And we start filming on the 14th, actually, other categories, because we are going to be looking at 24. Now listen to this, guys. 24 new categories of evidence.
Oh, wow.
Not 24 pieces of evidence.
Mm-hmm.
24 new categories.
Wow.
That's going to open up, I think, a whole new world for a lot of people. One, it's going to give them new things to look for, to collect, reasons to do it. I think it's going to open up the eyes of a lot of scientists. And maybe we'll even get some, DNA and some hard stuff going because, man, we have a lot of really good vetted samples. For instance, Abe had just mentioned the rock. We're in the area where one of his team members got hit in the head with a rock.
Oh, damn.
I have the rock right here. I'm looking at it. It's wrapped in paper, in sterile paper, but they collected it because it was touched by something.
Right.
And there should be DNA because now we don't need as much DNA to get really good results, to get the full genome. I'm working with people that are solving 50-year crimes on 1 to 2, 3 skin cells and getting convictions on a few skin cells. Old DNA, 50 years old. What's on that rock is brand new. It's just literally less than a month old. Right. It's not 50 years old. So that's where I'm kind of going. I think you can throw out everything that's been done in the past on DNA. I am working with it like Darby Orcutt at the University of North Carolina. I think I certainly helped get Darby kind of excited about this project because I'm sitting on so many vetted samples. Hey, I've got hair back from the Freeman footage still.
Oh, wow.
Paul Freeman collected that I've personally vetted. I go way back with all sorts of samples. We have skin sebum samples that should have sloughed off skin cells. There's also the chemical compounds that are in the in this sebum, which seems to be much thicker, much waxier than normal human sebum. And sebum's what keeps our skin moist. It also helps us grip stuff, which would be really handy in the woods for a Bigfoot to be able to grip things.
Sure.
And there's some correlations with gorillas that I just found out about with this thick, waxy sebum. I was talking to a zookeeper, and this is not any scientific papers ever. He tells me, Doug, when I heard you talking about this sebum and how thick it was and it was white, he goes, one day I was letting my male gorillas out of the pen, and they were covered with this white, sticky stuff that was bubbling out of their armpits. And I went, ooh, well, maybe it isn't sebum, which still is, even if it's coming out of their armpits. Maybe it's something that they make in excess when they get agitated or scared or whatever, but then maybe they wipe it, they get it on their hands. It may serve a lot of purposes. It could be their mosquito repellent for all we know. So that's just one area, which it's something I call 3D evidence because you have the forensic, you have the forensic latent prints, then you have the chemical compounds that are in the sebum, and then you have DNA. 3 different things from one sample. That's kind of a big deal.
Yeah, that's incredible.
It's better than any footage that you're going to get. Footage is great because it makes us all feel good. That we're not crazy. Oh, there it is. Yeah. Just every time I look at the Patterson footage, I go, okay, I'm not crazy. But that's just a feel-good thing. It ain't going to prove anything. It raises the bar, but don't prove anything. So, with just skin sebum. So Abe and his crew took on this project, the sebum collection project, and literally within, I can't even remember the exact days. It was just a number of days. They had 5 of these sebum collection, or 4 sebum. No, it was 5, I believe. Maybe Abe can correct me. It was 4 or 5 sebum collection plates, which is blue plexiglass, get ripped off of trees and go missing.
Oh, wow.
Because I had a theory they like blue, only because of things I've seen and things I've heard for many, many, many years. And so they were willing to get on board with this and do a lot of work, build things, put things up in trees up high. These things all went missing in different areas. These weren't all in one area. These were hundreds of miles apart, 100 miles apart in one instance. But they all ended with the same fate. I spent $1,000 on a drone 2 weekends ago to look for one of those plates. That's how valuable they are to me.
No.
And of course, we failed. So it's $1,000 just gone. But I hired one of the best drone operators in the country to do this. And he gave it, a college try. The weather didn't cooperate, blah, blah, blah. You guys all know the story, but we didn't find anything. So now
I have a rock.
Well, now, yeah, just one more thing.
Sorry, Doug. I have a
No,
rock.
that's fine, Henry.
given to me.
I was just going to mention one thing. We also then since they were disappearing, we put small GPS trackers on the new ones. And of course, we put these GPS trackers, as far as I know, none of them have been touched now with the GPS tracker on them. Mm-hmm. So it's like, what is with these things?
Yeah, why?
Right.
Why are you not touching these now?
I know, and it's like I do feel like the coyote trying to get the Roadrunner. And the Roadrunner is just laughing at me. Literally just laughing at me. And so thank you, Abe, for all your help. And he said, yes, 5 went missing. Yep. Different areas.
Abe said 5. And, well, we're excited about Legend Meet Science, too. I know several of us are backers for the Kickstarter.
Yep.
Legend Meet Science is one of the first documentaries, in the early 2000s that, again, rejuvenated a lot of this. It was, for me, Sasquatch, The Apes Among Us was a book I read when I was 9 and catapulted me into this. And then Sasquatch Legend Meet Science, which, energized and got us. You think about it, Doug, there hasn't really been anything of substance in terms of video besides the Patterson film. Everything else has been kind of sound and, kind of anecdotal stuff. But we've been resting on the Patterson film for a long time. We need something different. And I think what you're doing here is the direction. Maybe it's not the film. Maybe it's these other components in the DNA collection and the cumulative efforts of that really prove this thing exists. It's very elusive. We know that. And if it's starting to evade technologies, we're definitely not dealing with something that's got limited intelligence.
No, there's no way. I was going to mention one of the films that will be in Legend Meet Science, and it's going to be debuted at SquatchCon, Idaho on August 26th, and people can purchase an online ticket. There is a baby being lifted in that footage that I found way back in the 90s, and it's now been enhanced really well. And that's going to debut at SquatchCon on August 26th. So
is that the Freeman footage?
Yeah, the Freeman footage. Yeah.
Nice.
And if I still have to always say, Paul was such a dedicated researcher, and I know some people have accused him of being a hoaxer because he collected so much evidence and blah blah blah. But I can tell you, I put his footage through tons of paces and couldn't have proven anything with just the Freeman footage. And it wasn't until I saw a creature bend down and pick up a baby and the legs wrap around the waist and the head articulate on its own that I went, oh, that's 100% at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So
I was going to mention, Doug, I have a rock that Kathy Strain gave me from Area X, which is wrapped in plastic. She said it was thrown onto there's some old cabins they have out there at Area X. And she said it was thrown on the roof and they collected it off the roof. And I still have that rock.
Well, yeah, we should maybe talk about it. Plastic, unfortunately, is one of the things that destroys DNA.
Oh.
And really, there's a lot of oils in plastics. I shouldn't say I know anything about saran wrap. I don't. But a lot of plastics have oil compounds that really destroy.
Well, it's a petroleum-based substance to begin with. Right.
So you always want to, if you collect like fingerprints or handprint or other things, hair, put it in paper. Put it in a paper envelope, acid-free paper. If you can buy some envelopes, if you're a researcher, and paper, look for acid-free. It's even better.
Right. Right.
Go ahead, JB.
Well, I have 2 points. One is that Temple Grandin, in her many studies of animal research, because she was trying to make cattle ranching easier, she noticed that blue as a color actually calmed a lot of animals. It was a serene color for that. That was part of the reason why that when she made her device, because cows can swim to a degree, but they were dying when they were bringing them from one area to another when they went to clean them, because the cows were so inundated with so much stimuli, and her being autistic actually made it easier for her to see that from the cow's perspective. But when she painted all the cow carriers blue, it actually calmed and they had less deaths due to drowning because the cows didn't get as affected because it was all one sterile color that they liked and calmed them down. My second point, my second point, the movie on her is really amazing, and it does explain some of those points a lot better than my dumbass. But the other point I have is, you were talking about plastics. Could you use the same stuff you use for comic books and put it in bags like that?
No, I wouldn't. That's cellophane.
Because that's supposed to be that it doesn't affect the paper at all.
Right. What that is, I believe, is a wood-based plastic.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just so safe. And paper envelopes are so cheap.
That cellophane still has an oil base to it, though, because most plants do produce their own oil, and it will contaminate a DNA evidence. So I believe, Doug, you're absolutely correct. Use acid-free paper if at all possible, tissue paper, or even just a standard envelope. You could use that too. But acid-free paper would be the best way to go.
Yeah,
I'm a detective, and with my police department, I do forensics. I'm still involved. Yes, and we would never put anything that we were testing DNA into any sort of plastic. For that particular reason. So the paper bags, one of the first things that we do is teach guys how to make the little envelopes with a piece of paper, with just a sheet of paper. So that if you do have something, you can do a quick envelope with your gloves on, drop it in there, and you're good to go. So,
that's what Ed Del Rio did with The Rock. He made a paper envelope. They collected it with rubber latex gloves, threw it in this homemade envelope, folded it all up, and I got it handed to me, and I'm really excited to get it tested.
That's awesome.
So, but that's, those things may yield amazing things. We just don't know. We don't know what we're dealing with, because I have tested so many hairs at this point. They always come back human, even though the morphology says, no, there's no way it's human. No medulla, tapered end. It's wispier, it's thinner diameter, almost like a baby hair. It's just got all the properties of a wild human, and there's no way that it came off a human 10 feet up off, in a tree or in a pole. We look at like power line cuts a lot of times. I think they're using them as back scratchers because there's no low branches, so they can really get in there and scratch their back on these wooden power line poles. Plus, I think they're using those power line cuts as travel routes.
Doug,
it's cleared area. Yeah, right. Yeah. It's cleared area.
We had a question at the beginning of the show, Doug, around the height of the cameras that you were placing. Do you have them at varying heights around the camp, or just kind
of? The box I thought got lifted was just 2.5 feet up. It just looks like we're trying to make it look like, I had some oatmeal and I left the box out. Just a regular camper eating oatmeal. And good night, just like everybody does when they go camping, the mess. You always got to pick up a bunch of crap people leave out. And that's kind of the game plan these first few days. No doubt we'll just keep changing things. But tonight's nothing. No IR lights on any camera. Nothing. Continuously, we're going to be recording continuously. So cameras will be on tonight, all of them, but no lights. And then we'll change it up tomorrow. So we're gonna
Sounds like the experiment you tried at Snow Grove Lake, but on steroids.
Yeah,
Right?
Snell Grove was.
Right?
Oh my God! Yeah, we put
Yeah.
infrared cameras under the eaves, and then we made it look like I built a blind that went in the cabin. It was a brilliant idea, I thought. Build a blind in the cabin that was really thick black material, so the creatures would think we're sleeping. Meanwhile, we're watching everything. We had surveillance cameras all around the camera, and of course, nothing happened.
Mm-hmm.
Zero.
Yeah.
Oh, those are heartbreak moments. Let me tell you.
Yep.
Well,
But
I
when
think
the
it's
rocks got
heartbreaking.
thrown on the roof, that was different.
That got everybody moving, didn't it?
Yeah.
Right.
Well, though, what I was going to say there, though, Doug, is that it's heartbreaking, but it still gives the truth to people that may be interested. And I say this time and time again at presentations or anything I'm doing. In all the years, I can have a handful of experiences that were amazing, but the rest of the time in the 28 years is just being in the woods, and it's not always dramatic or exciting. And
exactly,
you got to take that as well as the good stuff, because if you're having stuff happen all the time, I think that's a different problem. Either you hit the hunting spot or you've got a mental illness. There's very rarely is there that golden opportunity. That
was kind of an example. Number one, the first time it happened, we had all sorts of stuff happen. There was even more stuff that happened that didn't make it in the show, believe it or not. But second time we went up with more gear, better technology, more ideas, and nothing happened.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Completely uneventful. And that's really hard when you're doing a TV show.
Sure.
But you just got to, we told it like it was. Thank God the float plane pilot landed and goes, hey, there were some Native women that had a sighting, 100 air miles from here.
Right.
Dude, I said, you guys go. They got on a plane and went to interview them. They saved the show, those two Native ladies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they were, of course, picking blueberries, which is why I believe we didn't have any action because blueberries weren't ripe yet.
Yeah, that's
We
true.
came up too early.
Yeah.
That's a really tough thing to do, is to time it, when all the conditions are right, an expedition. Because you can't control blueberries ripening, the weather.
No.
But every year before that, they were ripened August 17th up there. It's one year they weren't.
You brought up an interesting term called timing. And I'm going to go and step back probably, 15, 20 minutes back into this conversation. But, man, I'm telling you, Robert Stack nailed it for Unsolved Mysteries, but Stacy Keach nailed it for what you did. I'm telling you, man, that's what immediately snaps my interest. I don't care. Clearly, they're in rerun. But as soon as I hear that voice, I'm parking my ass on the couch and watching it, whether I've seen it one or if I've seen it 20 times. And that
Stacey,
episode and alone.
Just so you know, Vance, Stacy is the nicest man you'd ever meet.
I know he is. Yeah,
we ended up hanging out constantly. He flew up, even when my son got hit by a car, he flew up to sign his cast.
Yeah.
I mean, he would do things like, he was just a great guy. We ended up becoming really good friends. And doing projects together.
Yeah, he was a native from the area in which I'm in, but he's a Chicago boy.
He's one of those one of those, I don't know if they're rare, but he was one of those very famous actors that he was just so down to earth. Yeah,
but boy, he nailed it for MonsterQuest.
He did. Yeah.
Well, okay, but
Stacy didn't do MonsterQuest. He did Legend Meet Science.
Yeah.
Right. This is true. He did. You're right. My
MonsterQuest was done by another amazing guy, Stan Bernard. And Stan was, believe it or not, 82 years old when he was doing MonsterQuest.
Yep.
Wow.
It doesn't sound like it at all, huh? Right. Doesn't sound like it at all.
Die to find another guy like Stan.
Yeah.
Doug, did Ed Herman do one too, didn't he?
Yeah, he did Giganto.
Giganto. Yeah.
He basically did the pilot. I think Ed's passed away now.
Yeah, he passed away as well. Yeah.
And Ed was brilliant. I remember me and Ed going at it over, certain words, and he was really good. Now, he was particular. But yeah, I worked with Ed Herman on Giganto, the real King Kong. Yeah,
That's awesome.
great guy.
Yeah. That's the kind of nerds we are here, Doug.
Yeah,
Right?
I remember watching Giganto and then going to see King Kong the next night.
Oh,
sure.
really? So you went to Peter
Yeah.
Jackson's movie, Henry? Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's absolutely. It's cool to hear this stuff. Really cool.
Well,
That's
a long
big fan
time,
base.
kind of coinciding. It's a shame it's taken us almost 20 years to get you on Sasquatch Experience, but
Oh, geez,
That's-
I would have come on anytime. I don't care.
Oh, well,
I
thanks,
listen,
Doug.
this is what we
I
do.
love
man.
talking to people.
We love the subject, and
Yeah.
you know, I do field research. Matt Arner and I are research partners. I get the fortunate privilege of getting to spend a lot of time with members of law enforcement and learning methodology and forensics, not just from Matt, but from some others. So I've had a good research background, which I enjoy. Now, Matt and I, actually, I'm wearing my Mountain Ops shirt, Matt, are using
I'm wearing my hat.
There you go. We're using
Yeah.
the Mountain Ops program to get ourselves in shape so we can
Yes.
do this for another 30 years. And
Yes.
but
So,
it's been
Matt, are you an active detective? Are you still doing that?
I am. I have. I'm counting down the days. So I got about. If I leave early, I'm thinking I can leave in about 3 years and retire. Or if I stick around, it's going to be like 6 or 7. So, but in fact, actually tomorrow I have court. So I'm pretty busy with this. So
Yeah. Well, thanks for your service. I
thank
really,
you, sir.
Yeah, absolutely.
I really respect police officers.
Thank you.
Big
Thank
time.
you.
Matt's a good one too. He's a good dude. Does a lot for his community that he serves in.
I
Gentlemen,
agree
we hit that
helps.
apex.
Pardon?
It's that time.
Oh man.
Henry, I'm going to let you go first. Final questions or final thoughts for Doug?
Well, I just want to say this was awesome. I love this show, and I'm glad I was able to be here for the whole show.
How about
I
it?
have connection
Yeah.
problems.
Well, I want to thank you, Henry, because you always have been a big supporter of things I've done in the past, and I really do
Yes.
appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome. No problem.
Mr.
You do
Arner?
good stuff.
I'll tell you what, Doug. It is such an honor to have you on tonight. To be able to talk to you. I love your podcasts. I also listen to Dr. Jones too, who's on your
Oh,
network,
yeah,
and
yep. Ross is
I
amazing.
really try to emulate a lot of what he does out in the woods. I'm a little farther north, but you know, from listening to you, I'm getting some technology tips and you know, just some general research tips between you and Dr. Jones. So I thank you so much for everything.
Well, thanks, Brian.
Mr. Baker?
It's a lot to digest, like just the conversation you had about the cameras, the colors, things like that. I want to thank you for the time, because I'm going to be going through this for a little while and trying to kind of see because I have cameras up where I am, and we're not searching for Bigfoot, but some of the things you say are very existent to what me and Sean have found just looking at regular animals, deer, bear, just squirrels, you know what I mean? And to kind of take these shows lately, especially with what you're telling me, a lot of that is now going to look at it with a different lens. And so I thank you for the time.
Yeah. Well, as you know, bears and deer and even wolves are very wary of game cameras. They're all wary of them. All of them.
Yes. That was what one of my main points was. When we first put up the cameras for the first week, they got near the trees to figure out why we were near the trees, but they didn't really get near the cameras at all. Right. And then a couple weeks went by, and honestly, they forgot they were there unless me or him were messing with them. Sure. And we got great footage of them just doing deer things.
Yeah, but the deer, when they first saw them, they were scared. I guarantee they were looking into the camera.
Oh, yeah.
Trying to figure out what are
is
these
that?
things,
Why is it? And you made a valid point where you were like, it might not just be that the camera makes noise. It's because you put it in their house, and they know it's not supposed to be there.
So true, so true, so true. And I guess for me, I would just really want to thank Adam Colt and Abe Del Rio for making this teamwork possible, for doing studies that may be successful, may not be still a lot of work for everybody, and we just appreciate it. Everything's such a teamwork.
That's what makes it work. When you
Yeah.
got great partners and people to work together and
Yeah.
good collaboration, it's really important. And now more than ever, I think when it used to get stuck in the mud where Sasquatch research was a very personal me thing, the more you open your mind and you share with others, the more we're starting to realize and gather and collect and make some headway on things that we've been absent of for the last, quite a few years.
Think about what it takes to go and camp alone
Sure.
in the middle of the forest alone and have to work all day. And,
Yep.
Even into the night, he works on doing, camera maintenance and doing battery maintenance and swapping stuff. It's pretty amazing. So I really do want to thank Adam. But we got lots more coming, and Legend Meet Science too. If people do want to donate money, we do need it. Just go to Hangar One Publishing, and there is people can pre-order it, and that's how it would help us just to pre-order the doc. So,
Absolutely, folks. Get out there and get it. Hangar One Publishing. Go out and get a copy.
Yeah.
Or pre-order your copy of Legend Meet Science.
Yeah.
Too. Like I said,
Plus,
some
they
of
get their
us.
name in the credits. Plus, they get their name in the credits, so it really helps us. So,
HangarOnePublishing.com.
Abe put a link up. Thanks, Abe.
Abe got it up there for us.
Please contact me on Facebook or Messenger. Matt, I'd love to have a conversation with you too about forensics and
Yeah, definitely.
some of your work. If you could get a hold of me, and love to just
Absolutely.
chat with you one of
That's
these
good,
days
dude.
soon.
Yep.
There's some reasons I want to talk to you, and I don't know. Thanks, guys.
Yeah,
Well, thank
thank
I
you.
really appreciate it, and definitely rest in peace, Peter.
Yes.
He really did. Peter did better than anything. He gave us all a bit of integrity from way back. I mean, he had a ton of integrity. From it, and he was a great spokesperson. Here's this good-looking, polished, educated man, and it made us all feel like, oh, we're not crazy.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So,
Yeah. Gave it that professional air.
Yeah,
to it,
he really did, and he'll certainly be missed.
A giant that has left us, but his, aura and his research still lives on. Folks, I'm Sean Forker on behalf of Vance Nesbitt, Matt Arner, James Baker, Brian Corbin, Henry May, and Doug Hajiecks. Henry, give us those last words.
Y'all be good or be good at it.
There it is, as simple as that, folks. Keep on squatching. We'll see you in 2 weeks. Good night, everybody.
You've been listening to Sasquatch Experience. Please rate and review wherever this podcast is consumed. To share your experience, visit us on Facebook or email us, squatchexperience@gmail.com. Keep on squatching.